Hello and welcome to Disney Movie Investigations. This is case file number 1808, 27 Dresses. And for those of you that have not seen these videos before, what they are is we take a deep dive into a Disney Plus movie and we look at its background, its history, as well as what lies in the future for this movie. So today we're looking at case file number 1808, 27 Dresses. And this was a Fox 2000 Pictures studio film, and it was also in part done with Spyglass Entertainment, and it was released on January 18th, 2008, and it was directed by Anne Fletcher. She, for those of you that don't know her, she started out as a choreographer on several high-named movies, as well as she ended up becoming a director as well for several Disney movies, her latest one being The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. So this movie was written by Aline Bross McKenna, and she has several credits to her name, the most famous being The Devil Wears Prada. So the budget for this movie was $30 million, and the box office, it was a huge success at $162.7 million return. Now, before we look into the plot and the story, let's look at the background of 27 Dresses. So Aline McKenna based the screenplay on real-life events. The story that she said is her friend Kate was someone that was not complaining, but she was promoting herself as she was always a bridesmaid but never a bride. And she actually had been to over 12 different weddings in her lifetime and always being a bridesmaid. And she was promoting herself as well as kind of like the go-to bridesmaid. Someone that would always like help out with little things of weddings. So she based the screenplay on her life. The process of the writing of the screenplay and getting it onto the big screen actually took just under 6 years. In June 2006, Aline's other project, The Devil Wears Prada, was actually hitting theaters. And she was close to calling it quits, though, with 27 Dresses. But her friends kept pushing her to keep going, saying it was a really good idea, it'll make a really good movie. But it did take quite a bit of time for her to get it to the big screen. And every time she would pitch it, the studio just showed no interest. So eventually she did have a completed script with Fox agreeing to distribute it. But it had 60% of it changed from the original first draft. So there was quite a few revisions from her original idea. Initially, Fox thought of it as a television show, and it would be broken up into different segments as a kind of a drama comedy, kind of like Beverly Hills 90210. That's not even a great example. Try to think. Something like Caroline in the City, something kind of like a dramatic comedy for older adults. But Fox quickly abandoned this idea for the feature film idea. So before we look, now that we know the production history, let's look at the cast. So Katherine Heigl, she plays the main character, Jane. Katherine Heigl was not initially the first option for the studio, as they felt that she wasn't a strong enough actress to carry a feature film. She had been on Grey's Anatomy and she had done the Judd Apatow Knocked Up, but they didn't feel that she could carry a film on her own. Director Anne Fletcher, though, actually pushed for her and kind of pushed the studio into saying, like, no, I believe that she can do it and she'll be able to carry the whole movie on her own. So it was Anne Fletcher that got her the job. And she was a dream to work with, according to Anne Fletcher. The only problem they had, and it's kind of a funny story, is that they had a hard time finding bridesmaid dresses. As part of the comedy, for those of you that haven't seen the film, is that these bridesmaids dresses are really ugly and really kind of hideous, and that's where the comedy comes in. But they actually had a hard time finding these bridesmaid dresses because a lot of them, like what Katherine Heigl would try it on, and she would actually look even more stunning with them on. Just her natural beauty was shining through. So they actually ended up trying over 50 bridesmaid dresses on Katherine Heigl and kind of scaled it down to the 27 dresses that you see in the film. So James Marsden was Kevin, the romantic lead in this movie. So James Marsden, for those of you who don't know, he is Cyclops in the X-Men films. He's for Disney fans, in Enchanted, he plays Prince Edward. So James Marsden was actually working on Hairspray with Anne Fletcher as a choreographer, and Anne Fletcher knew that she was going to be doing 27 dresses, and she approached James Marsden almost as a joke, saying like, "Hey, do you want to be in my next film?" And Marsden laughed it off. Not that being in the film was a joke, but kind of like, haha, like, isn't it funny that you would think of me? But after a week of thinking it over, Anne Fletcher kind of just convinced herself that James Marsden would be the best actor for the role. So this is kind of a departure from what James Marsden was doing at the time, because he was doing a lot of X-Men films. He was in the Superman Returns movie. So he was more into that action type movie. So this was something different for him, and I think it worked out for him in this one. So rounding out the cast is Melaine Anchorman as the younger sister Tess. She was in Rock of Ages as Constance, and Edward Burns plays George, and he was in Saving Private Ryan. And then you have Judy Greer as Casey, and Judy Greer is known for these type of movies. She's in a lot of these kind of romantic comedies. She had just come off of, not just come off, but she was in 13 Going on 30 with Jennifer Garner in a very similar role. So the shooting actually began on May 10th, 2007, and it was filmed mostly in Rhode Island. And the locations also included the Rosecliff Mansion and the Marble House Mansion. And they actually filmed in New York City for 2 weeks as well. So it was all done in that East Coast area. And now that we kind of know the back history, let's look at the plot of the movie. So after serving as a bridesmaid in 27 different weddings, a young woman named Jane wrestles with the idea of standing by her sister Tess's side as she marries the man that she's been secretly in love with for years. So a bit of trivia with this spoiler. This is spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen the movie. But the original ending actually had Jane deciding that she didn't want to get married at all and that she would rather be happy on her own. The producers and the studios kind of put the kibosh on this idea and insisted they have a more happier ending. So they were kind of wanting the traditional ending where everyone kind of ends up for the better and everyone falls in love. So in terms of the marketing of this movie, this actually has a unique story. So again, producers were happy that they cast Katherine Heigl. She was doing really great work. But the problem was they didn't think that she was strong enough to be a leading actress in a movie all on her own. So they created this unique poster design, which was a kind of a cartoony dress, and they did this so that again it would draw more attention to the film, but as well as they wanted to create attention that The Devil Wears Prada, which was a highly successful film, was the same writer, so that they could draw the appeal from the audience from The Devil Wears Prada. So that's pretty much it. Like, I just want to give my final thoughts on the movie. I think it's a great light comedy. It's not gonna set the world on fire, but it is like kind of that light-hearted romantic comedy. And it's often regarded as one of the last of the mid-budget romantic comedies, because at this time, studios were taking a major shift into the way movies were getting produced, and it was becoming more about the big budget movies. So superhero movies, big budget action movies, kind of dramatic, like huge dramatic type movies. These mid-budget romantic comedies were kind of falling from the wayside. And the reason for this is like things like Netflix was doing their own type of thing, as well as like Amazon Prime. So they were kind of doing the mid-budget romantic comedies on their streaming service, and you were seeing less and less of these type of movies getting pushed into a theater. So yeah, Katherine Heigl as well has been pushing in interviews for a sequel. Her idea was that this would take place 10 years after the original movie, and that she was pushing that like everyone was getting pregnant, so like she was always like kind of like a bridesmaid equivalent of a baby shower, and that she was feeling rushed to get pregnant to have a child of her own. Nothing has been announced. I would be very, very shocked if this got a sequel. Not that it didn't do well, but I just think that everybody's kind of moved on in terms of their careers at this point. So I doubt that they would go back onto this territory. So that's it for this video. It's not a long one. I thought just to kind of, with these shorter videos, what we would do is I'm going to try something new, see if it works out. But in terms of, I was going to try a bonus Disney story. And so because this one's about falling in love and Disney weddings, I thought I'd share a kind of unique short story about Mickey and Minnie falling in love. So the voice of Mickey Mouse was performed by Wayne Allwine, and he started in the mid-1970s, and he took over for Jimmy McDonald, who they were both in the special effects department. And Russi Taylor provided the voice of Minnie Mouse, and she started in 1986 after a successful audition. And both were kind of separate. They didn't know each other beforehand, but they actually met in the hallway as Russi Taylor was on her way to do voice recording for Totally Minnie, which for those of you who don't know was an 80s CD with Minnie Mouse doing like kind of like 80s pop songs at the time. And both Allwine and Taylor were in marriages, but they were in happy marriages. They weren't unsuccessful marriages, and both ended up in divorce. So Taylor and Allwine began hanging out first as friends and kind of just getting to know each other, and they actually began dating. And this led to the two of them getting married in 1991. So they tried to keep the wedding a secret because they didn't want it to turn into like, well, Mickey and Minnie are getting married. They wanted to kind of keep their private lives separate. And just hearing different interviews from different voice actors, like you couldn't have met two people that were more in love with each other. They just totally loved each other and were total loyal to each other and just were just happy to be with each other. And just totally in love with each other. They were married until, unfortunately, Allwine passed away in 2009. And then Russi remained loyal and actually never remarried until her death until 2019. And then Russi was quoted as actually saying that for the 10 years that unfortunately they were no longer together, that they know they would meet in a better place and that their legacy would always live on in the voices of Mickey and Minnie, that they did so many different projects together. And that, again, they were just in love and they knew that their love would be eternal. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that kind of a Disney bonus story, just kind of a little short story, and I thought it was kind of cute. So in terms of a Disney artifact, so I don't have anything from 27 Dresses, unfortunately, but I thought I'd share with the Mickey and Minnie story, I would share these guys. So these are the costumes. If you've been to Disney World, starting in 2018, these are the costumes for Mickey and Minnie's 90th birthday. And these were plush that I got at a Destination D event. And these actually represent the plush, the costumes that the in the park characters would wear as well. I'll show you a better shot of Minnie. And yeah, these are the the 90th anniversary costumes that Mickey and Minnie would wear. And I just thought it was cute, both celebrating their 90th birthday. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, it's not as long as some of the other videos, but again, it's kind of short and sweet, but that's all there really is to talk about with these ones. So our next Disney case file will be case file number 2805, and it's Aliens of the Deep, which is a James Cameron documentary. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video, and hope you guys have a great day.